Alright guys, so we have our game interface complete. So now what we have to do is power it. And the way you power an HTML5 Canvas app is through JavaScript. Alright, so if we look at our file structure, we have this script.js file, which is empty at the moment. Alright, so there's quite a bit that we have to do here. I'm not sure if I'll finish it all in this video or if we'll have to make a second one. But basically the first thing we want to do is check to see if the document's ready, and we can do that with jQuery. Alright, so we can say jQuery document.ready, and then in here we'll create a function, and then when the document's ready, whatever we want to happen in here will happen. So let's just test it out with an alert. Okay, just to make sure everything's connected correctly. If we reload, we get an alert with the number 1. Alright. Now what we want to do here is define our canvas variables. Okay, so I'm just going to say define vars. Alright, so in the first video, the canvas video, where we did the squares, the text, the animation, that's what we're going to do here. Is we're going to create a variable called canvas, and we're going to set that to the canvas element. Now in the first section, what we did was we used document.getElementById, which is a JavaScript function. We're going to use jQuery for this. Alright, so to grab it is very easy. Okay, we know it has an ID of canvas, so that's all we have to say here. Alright, and we want the first element. In case there's more than one, we just throw that 0 in there. Alright, so now what we need is the context. So we'll use that ctx variable, and that's going to be equal to canvas.getContext, and we're going to pass in 2D. Okay. Alright, so now let's do the width and the height. Alright, so variable w, we're going to set that to, actually we'll just do canvas.width, okay, and variable h will be canvas.height. Oh, can't spell today. Alright, next we want the cell width. Alright, so the width of each cell, and I'm going to make that 15. Okay, so 15, and I want to create another variable. I'm just going to initialize the variable d, and that variable is actually for direction. Also going to initialize var food. Okay, so that'll represent the food, which is the little square that the snake chases after. We'll create a variable for the score. Alright, so that'll be for the current game score, and then the speed. So variable speed, and I'm going to set that to a default of 130 milliseconds. Alright, so if you want to speed the snake up or slow it down, you can edit this here. And you could go on even after we finish this and go on and build some kind of I don't know, some kind of dial to make the snake faster or slower. Maybe like an up and down arrow or something like that. Alright, so the last thing I want to do before we start our init function is create this. I want to initialize the array of cells that make the snake. Alright, so each square that's in the snake that's going to be an array. Okay, so we're going to say variable. Actually, I'm going to put a comment here. Snake array, variable snake array. Alright, So now that we have all the variables set, we want to, let's start our initialize function. So initializer function init. Okay. Basically, this is going to call all of our other functions, or I guess our sub functions. Alright, but the first thing we're going to do is set the direction. Actually, you know what? We'll set the direction up here. It's going to be right. Alright. And the first function we want to call from the initializer is the create snake function. So basically that's just going to create the snake for us, and then we're going to call create food, which will create the dot or the square that the snake chases, and then the score, which is going to be, it's going to start at 0. Alright, and in order to animate this and make the snake move, we're going to create a kind of a loop, alright, that'll run every so often, and it'll make the snake move. It'll use a timer, which will trigger a function that we're going to call paint. Alright, so paint will be the kind of the main animation function. I notice I spelt initializer wrong here. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to say if type of game loop is not equal to undefined, then actually we don't need these curly braces. We'll say clear interval, and we're going to pass in game loop. Alright, and then below it we're going to say game loop equals set interval, and then the function we want to run is going to be called paint, and we're also going to pass in the speed. Alright, so this is where this actually pertains to this, so by default it'll be 130, but feel free to change that. All you need to do is change this number and it'll work throughout the application. So basically it's just, this is going to trigger the paint function through regular intervals that we add here, which is 130. Alright, and then we're going to close out that init, alright, that init function, and then we're just going to run it. So I'm just going to say init. So that'll run this function. Okay, now what we need to do is basically create these functions, kind of the sub functions, I guess. Alright, so we'll start with create snake. Alright. And if you are a JavaScript pro, or if you're pretty fluent in JavaScript, and I do some things that maybe you would just do it different, then by all means that's fine. This isn't really, I'm not trying to build a production app. I'm just trying to do it the easiest way possible for me to convey to you how to use the canvas element and how to build a HTML5 game app. Alright, so the first thing in the create snake function that I want to do is set the length of the snake, which basically will be the amount of squares or rectangles. Okay, so we'll create a variable. This is going to be a local variable that's only accessible in this create snake function, and I'm going to set that to 5. Alright, and then next we're going to just start with an empty array, the snake array. Snake array is going to be just an empty array. And the reason I didn't put var here is because snake array is global. You can see that we declared it up here. Whoop. We declared it up here, so we don't need var here. Alright, so now what I want to do is just create a for loop. Alright, so we're going to say for variable I, we'll create a variable called I, which will be equal to the length variable minus 1. Okay, and then we're going to say as long as I is greater than or equal to 0, then we want to I'm going to say I minus minus. Okay, so we're going to decrement it. Alright, and what we want to do here is create a horizontal snake starting from the top left. Okay, so I'm going to take the snake array and we're going to say dot push, and push basically just means add to the end of the array. Okay, so I'm going to throw in this object x, which will be I from the loop, and then y 0. Okay, so that's just saying we want it to start at the top left. Alright, so that's really it for the snake function, create snake function. Let's just throw in a comment here. Now this init, you could say body onload equal init to run it, but I'm just going to throw it in there just so it runs when the page is ready. Okay, so the next one is going to be to create the food. So function create food, and this is going to be a very simple function. Basically, with our canvas, there is going to be 45 positions across the rows and columns, and we basically want to create the piece of food in a random place, pretty much anywhere in the square. Alright, so to do that, we need to say we're just going to create this food object. Alright, so food, and first we're going to do the x axis, or the x position. We're going to say x math. We're going to use the JavaScript math object, and then the round function or method. So math.round. Okay, and I hate this kind of stuff. I'm really not good with math. So we're going to say math.random